Welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us for this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some seriously eye-opening research from Harvard medical expert Dr. Aditi Nerurkar. We're going to completely reframe how we look at our daily exhaustion, because let's be honest, so often we treat feeling burnt out like it's some sort of personal character flaw, right? Like it's a sign we just aren't working hard enough, or maybe we're just terrible at time management. But Dr. Nerurkar's clinical work reveals something that is honestly incredibly liberating. This is actually a mechanical, biological reality. Your exhaustion is a biological process. And the great news here, because it's biological, there's a tangible, scientific toolkit we can use to actually fix it.
Okay, so let's dive right into this by asking a very direct question. Are you constantly overwhelmed? Just take a quick second to reflect on your own daily baseline. Do you feel like you're constantly running on fumes, just trying to keep your head above water with an endless stream of demands? If you're nodding your head yes, listen, I want to validate those feelings right out of the gate. You are absolutely not alone, and more importantly, it is not your fault. The sheer volume and speed of modern life are putting our internal biological dams under immense, unbelievable pressure.
And what's truly staggering about this is the sheer scale of the problem: 70%. Recent scientific studies show that nearly 70% of people experience at least one significant feature of burnout during their professional career. To put that into perspective, that's 7 out of every 10 people you know. It absolutely proves that we're dealing with a widespread systemic biological epidemic across all demographics. The boundaries between work and life have completely blurred, and it is taking a massive toll on our nervous systems.
Now, Dr. Nerurkar presents a really crucial distinction here. Stress itself, that's a totally natural response. It helps us learn, adapt, overcome challenges. But burnout, that total systemic collapse of your mind and body, that is not inevitable. If we can just understand our biological boundaries and learn to work in harmony with our body's mechanical systems, we can finally stop fighting this uphill battle. And that, right there, is the foundation we're building on today as we look under the hood at the mechanics of our minds.
So, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll cover the modern burnout epidemic, your brain on stress, the rule of 2, curing popcorn brain, the gut-brain connection, and finally, play and social resilience.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the modern burnout epidemic, and identifying your stress signals. You see, this fast-paced modern world keeps our biological systems essentially locked in a constant state of low-level fight or flight. To navigate this, we absolutely have to learn to recognize our early warning systems. Think about it. Historically, coal miners used small canaries to detect toxic gases in the air long before they became lethal to humans. Well, our bodies function in a very similar way. I want you to turn inward for a moment and ask yourself, what is your internal canary singing? For some of us, this warning signal manifests as, say, sudden irritability with loved ones, or maybe just this persistent nagging sense of impending doom. For others, it's totally physical: heart palpitations, a terrible tension headache, or severe sleep disturbances. If you ignore this internal canary, you're essentially choosing to keep working deep inside a toxic mind. Catching these early cues is vital so you can take decisive action way before you hit total burnout. Which brings us to Section 2, your brain on stress, or what we call the biological hijack. Dr. Nerurkar perfectly describes this as a biological hijack. Imagine it like a tug of war. On one side, we have the amygdala. This is the primitive, ancient part of the brain responsible for our survival instincts and that famous fight-or-flight response. Now, evolutionarily speaking, this was only supposed to be a temporary emergency state. But today, thanks to financial pressures, unrelenting deadlines, and endless phone notifications, the amygdala stays cranked up and active for 16 hours a day or more. When this happens, it actively overrides your prefrontal cortex. That's the advanced part of the brain responsible for logical thinking, emotional regulation, and long-term strategy. That is exactly why, when you're super stressed out, your brain gets hijacked, and you find yourself reacting to a totally benign email from your boss as if a literal tiger just walked into the room. So how do we stop the hijack? That's Section 3, the rule of 2. It's our framework for sustainable change.
The absolute best news here is that recovering your biology does not require some massive, super stressful lifestyle overhaul. In fact, actually, scratch that. Our brains actively resist sudden, large-scale changes. If you wake up tomorrow and try to completely overhaul your diet, your exercise, and your sleep routine all at the exact same time, your brain perceives all of that as a massive new stressor. And what happens? Boom, it just triggers your amygdala's alarm bells all over again. Instead, you gotta use the rule of 2. Step 1, make just 2 small lifestyle changes. Maybe it's a 10-minute daily walk and deciding to keep your phone out of your bedroom. That's it. Step 2, Maintain consistency with those two things for about 8 weeks. Step 3. Once those are hardwired in as automatic habits, then you can safely introduce 2 more changes. Remember, we are running a marathon here, not an exhausting sprint. We're working perfectly in harmony with your biology.
All right, moving on to Section 4, curing the popcorn brain through digital boundaries and monotasking. So the constant overstimulation from our devices creates this scattered, fragmented attention span. Your thoughts are just popping around uncontrollably. It's a phenomenon perfectly named popcorn brain. Let me hit you with a quick, rapid-fire reality check here. 2,000. That's the number of times we check our phones on an average day. Crazy, right? We've practically become these digital night watchmen, constantly doom-scrolling, looking for danger, or just seeking cheap social validation. And this creates a constant loop of distraction that is rapidly eroding our ability to actually think deeply.
And I'm going to follow that up right away with another shocking fact. 2%. That is the actual percentage of the human population that is biologically capable of effectively multitasking. 2%. For the other 98% of us, what we confidently call multitasking is actually just rapid task switching. It massively drains the prefrontal cortex, it spikes our stress levels, and it practically guarantees a huge drop in our creativity and our accuracy.
So to combat this popcorn brain, we have to ditch the myth of multitasking and embrace the biological power of monotasking, doing one thing at a time. Here are some incredibly practical digital guardrails you can use. First, keep your phone completely out of the bedroom at night to protect your sleep hygiene. Next, set specific, limited times to check emails rather than just leaving the inbox open to ping you all day. Clear your workspace of digital clutter. And try utilizing the Pomodoro method. That's where you set a timer for focused work, followed by a very intentional break. By doing just one thing at a time with your full presence, you're allowing your brain to enter a state of flow, and you reclaim all that lost cognitive depth and mental bandwidth. Now let's look at Section 5, the gut-brain connection, and how nutrition fuels our resilience. You might not realize this, but your daily digestive health fundamentally dictates your biological resilience to stress. Let's define an absolutely crucial biological concept right here, the psychobiome. Modern science has revealed that our gut is literally our second brain. It's this incredibly intricate ecosystem of neurons and bacteria that communicates directly with your brain upstairs via the long vagus nerve. And what's totally mind-blowing about this is that the vast majority of our serotonin, the primary chemical responsible for regulating our happiness and emotional stability, is actually produced right here in the gut, not in your head. So if your gut is imbalanced, it's directly fueling anxiety, brain fog, and chronic exhaustion. So what's the game plan here? Well, here are the actionable dietary shifts necessary to quiet that internal inflammation and support your mental clarity right from the inside out. You want to increase natural prebiotics and probiotics to nourish all those good bacteria. Drastically reduce highly processed foods, artificial additives, and added sugars. These are the prime culprits causing the inflammation that leads straight to mental fatigue. And just as importantly, try to maintain regular meal times and practice mindful eating. By creating a really stable, healthy environment for your second brain down below, you're giving your primary brain the biological foundation it absolutely needs to stay calm, cool, and focused under pressure. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, play and social resilience, the absolute biological necessity of joy.
Listen, it is high time we totally dismantle this toxic hustle culture myth that leisure, connection, and fun are just these optional little extras reserved only for when all the work is completely done. Because the reality is, play is a biological necessity, period. Engaging in activities just for the pure joy of them naturally stimulates the release of endorphins and oxytocin. And guess what? Those are the exact chemicals that counteract chronic stress and quiet down the blaring alarm bells in your amygdala. Whether it's playing a sport, diving into a creative hobby, or honestly, just laughing with your friends, these moments of social connection and play are absolutely not a waste of time. They are the literal biological mechanisms that allow your brain to remain flexible, creative, and highly resilient.
And that leads us perfectly into the philosophy of living a lifetime in a day. Dr. Nerurkar suggests we should be seamlessly bringing all these biological and psychological lessons into one holistic everyday routine. Every 24-hour period should contain some play, some work, a bit of solitude, joy, social connection, and deep rest. When you actually hit these marks, you don't go to bed feeling completely drained and defeated from the daily grind. You go to bed feeling fulfilled. You are no longer just surviving and holding your breath for some far-off vacation in the future. You are thriving right here, right now, today. Which brings us to the very end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with one final provocative question to think about. What 2 small changes will you make today? I'm challenging you to apply the rule of 2 right now, today. Just pick 2 small things we covered. Maybe it's simply keeping your phone out of your bedroom tonight, or maybe it's deliberately dedicating 20 minutes to just play and have fun. Start small, work with your biology instead of against it, and begin reclaiming your full human potential today. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.